This video is sponsored by nobody, you moron. I feel like Wes Anderson has gotten a lot of needless hate, especially recently, mainly with people either saying his movies are style over substance or claiming that all his movies are the same. The first argument is understandable, even though I disagree, but Wes Anderson's movies aren't all the same. Listen, even though Wes only makes comedy movies with his signature storybook style, his films are still quite different from each other. To be honest, saying every Wes Anderson movie is the same is like saying every Alfred Hitchcock movie is the same. Personally, Wes Anderson is easily in my top 5 favorite movie directors, so I'm going to rank all his movies. Keep in mind, these are just my dumb opinions, you don't have to agree with them. Bottle Rocket is a really solid debut film, but does lack in some areas. The cast has great chemistry together, especially all three Wilson brothers. The dry and quirky comedy is hilarious. The story is engaging, and the classic rock soundtrack fits the tone of the movie really well. However, it is very obvious that this is Wes Anderson's debut film. Although I didn't expect the cinematography and editing to be quite as good as Wes Anderson's later stuff, I still didn't expect the movie to look this unprofessional. But overall, this is an amazing movie. It's like if John Hughes wrote and directed a crime thriller. The Darjeeling Limited is definitely a Wes Anderson movie. It's nowhere near a bad film, but it's not one I can imagine anyone having as their favorite Wes Anderson movie. Just like in Bottle Rocket, Owen Wilson, Adrien Brody, and Jason Schwartzman have great chemistry together. That opening slow motion scene is awesome, and it reminds me of Subway Surfer. I love the symmetrical cinematography and pastel color palette that Wes is known for, and I'm probably going to say that a lot in this video, so sorry. The dry comedy is hilarious, the emotional moments are great, and the soundtrack fits the tone of the movie really well. However, as I hinted at in the beginning, this movie doesn't do anything or say anything that special. It's still an amazing movie, but it's just not as memorable as his other works.
Gusto, into speed flow, invented scuba captain the Calypso, Palme d'Or winning documenter of the ocean, ready to battle a desperate sweaty show.
The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou is why I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes. Normalize using Letterboxd and IMDb for accurate film scores. The characters are all great, especially Steve, Ned, and Klaus. The comedy is quirky and hilarious. The emotional moments hit hard. The symmetrical cinematography and pastel color palette are beautiful. The David Bowie soundtrack is great. The stop-motion animation for the fish is also really cool. Hell, even the costumes designed by Melina Canonero really add to the charm of the film. However, ironically enough, where I complained that Darjeeling Limited didn't experiment enough, I feel like Life Aquatic experimented too much. Mainly with some of the editing choices, they just didn't fit the rest of the movie's tone. But overall, this is still an amazing movie, and I would recommend watching it.
Life Aquatic was adventure and beauty. I'm so cool, Bill Murray played me in the movie.
The French Dispatch is one of Wes Anderson's most divisive films, but I personally loved it. I think the main reason some people didn't connect with this film is because of the anthology story structure, but I really dug it. Honestly, the over-experimentation is much more at home here than it was in Life Aquatic due to the format. I also think this is one of Wes Anderson's most beautiful films in terms of visuals. I adore the way this movie mixes black and white with color. The cinematography, the acting, and Adam Stockhausen's storybook production designs are all fantastic. Although I can totally see why the anthology format is a turnoff for some, I'd still highly recommend watching this. I Love Dogs is one of the goofiest movie titles ever because it sounds like I love dogs. That's silly. Anyways, this is a brilliantly written allegory for the dangers of corrupt governments and fascism. Bryan Cranston does an amazing job in this movie as Chief, who is such a bold character. Atari is a great dialogue-less character, and his relationship with Chief is charming. Bill Murray and Jeff Goldblum give very charming performances as well. The dialogue is engaging and quirky as usual for Wes Anderson. I even love the character designs because they show so much personality. The cinematography is colorful and symmetrical, again as usual. Alexander Desplat's Japanese-inspired score is marvelous. The editing fits the tone of the movie really well. The stop-motion animation is beautiful. well. The production design is immaculate and immersive. The quirky comedy is funny, and I appreciate the darker tone which makes it stand out amongst Wes Anderson's other films. One issue I had with the movie was the character of Tracy Walker. I thought she was very pointless to the story despite the film focusing on her for so long, but overall, I love this movie. I would highly recommend watching it if you haven't already.
I am an alien from another planet. While you are looking at my face, I am rubbing my testicles and making love to your fingers. Don't say you're not enjoying it, as I can see you smiling. Feel my passion, feel my—
I don't know how this opinion is going to age over time considering it's Wes Anderson's most recent film, but I love Asteroid City. It's such a whimsical and gorgeous film that proudly wears its 1950s science fiction influences on its sleeve. The characters are all charming, and so are the performances from the all-star cast. The symmetrical cinematography and pastel color palette are both very present and welcomed here. The dry comedy is hilarious, and the emotional moments hit hard. Also, if you know me, you know I'm a sucker for movies about existentialism. Yeah, that sounded really depressing. Although this movie's themes don't reach Synecdoche, New York levels of existentialism, Wes Anderson's take on the subject was very fascinating in its own right. So to all the people saying that Wes Anderson has lost his magic, you smell. Overall, this is my favorite movie of the year so far. The Royal Tenenbaums is probably Wes Anderson's saddest film. It's such a beautiful film about the importance of family. The characters are all fantastic, the cinematography is beautiful, and the classic rock soundtrack slaps. This is also Wes Anderson's second film that implements his trademark storybook style and colorful set design. The story is engaging, the comedy is hilarious, and the emotional moments hit hard. My only problem is the relationship between Richie and Margot is kinda weird, but overall, this movie is incredible. I feel like Rushmore is very slept on by Wes Anderson fans. Despite it not having all the detailed intricacies of a modern Wes Anderson movie, it still manages to be absolutely beautiful and hilarious. Jason Schwartzman and Bill Murray are both hysterical in this movie. All of the side characters are extremely memorable, the cinematography and editing are very stylish, the soundtrack slaps and matches the movie's tone really well, the production design is incredible and it really immerses me in the rich private school setting. And because this is Wes Anderson's second film, we get to see him play with his signature storybook style at an early stage. This is also probably Wes Anderson's best written movie that asks the question of what it truly means to succeed. Yeah, I don't know why this film is often pushed aside, because I think it's one of the highlights of Wes's career as a filmmaker. Moonrise Kingdom was my introduction to Wes Anderson, and what a terrific movie to start with. Jared Gilman and Kara Hayward both give incredible performances. Bill Murray is hilarious as the overprotective father. Bruce Willis's performance as the cop feels like he's doing a parody of himself, and I love it. Edward Norton is soothing as the gentle scout leader. And even Bob Balaban is hilarious in this movie despite barely being in it. The cinematography is beautiful, and the use of greens and yellows really give this movie a nice, warm summer feel. Alexander Desplat's score fits the tone of the movie really well. The dialogue and the dry comedy are hilarious. The story is very reminiscent of Romeo and Juliet, and I especially love the non-linear style at the beginning. Also, this entire film as a whole is just so charming and whimsical. I would highly recommend watching this if you haven't already. Fantastic Mr. Fox is cussin' fantastic.
Are you cussing with me?
No, you cussing with me?
Don't cuss and point.
You're gonna cuss with somebody. You're not gonna cuss with me, you little cuss.
George Clooney and Meryl Streep give spectacular performances. The rest of the cast and side characters are outstanding as well. The cinematography is gorgeous and gives off a very comforting autumn feel. The editing is stylish and complements the cinematography really well. The stop-motion animation is phenomenal and really adds an extra layer of whimsy to an already whimsical film. The soundtrack slaps, and even the sound design is fantastic. Although I haven't read the original Fantastic Mr. Fox book by Roald Dahl, the story's themes of family, crime, and acceptance were a perfect fit for Wes Anderson. Just like everything else Wes Anderson has made, the quirky comedy is hilarious, the whimsical tone is wholesome, and the emotional moments are powerful. I really wish I watched this movie as a kid, because I can guarantee you I would have adored it. Hell, I'm not a kid, and I adore it right now. I highly recommend everyone watch this masterpiece. Yeah, the Grand Budapest Hotel rocks, and it's probably going to go down as a classic in a decade or so. Ray Fiennes is incredible as the main character. Tony Revolori gives a shining performance as the lobby boy, especially considering this was his first ever performance in a movie. Saoirse Ronan is amazing as the love interest. Edward Norton is hilarious as the cop. Adrian Brody and Willem Dafoe are brilliant as the villains. And Jeff Goldblum is hysterical as Kovacs. The cinematography is super colorful, well-crafted, symmetrical, and beautiful. Alexander Desplat's score fits the tone of the movie wonderfully. Melina Cananiero's costumes are super vibrant and add so much to the characters and visuals. Adam Stockhausen's storybook production designs are unique with its use of reds, miniature models, and painted backgrounds. The dramatic moments are emotional, and this is probably Wes Anderson's funniest movie. However, this movie has some things that make it stand out amongst Wes Anderson's other movies. 1, this movie is way more violent than I expected, and 2, this movie is very suspenseful. Overall, this movie is a whimsical masterpiece, and it's without a doubt my favorite Wes Anderson movie. Watch it if you haven't already. Alright, another video done. Bye bye.